well, but I don't have that linked in here yet.
Can you hear me now?
Success.
Yay.
It's the little things. Thank you. Thank you, Brad. I appreciate it. I heard you. I heard every nice thing you said. I appreciate it. And that is close to my old territory. I'm from Garner originally. So
Oh, it probably goes right. That line probably goes right through Garner.
it does. Yeah. So I was excited to hear about it too. It's a big one. I mean,
Yeah, it's like
it's good.
major new transmission upgrade without any new transmission right-of-way requirements. So it's just taking out the old and putting in a much better, bigger, hurricane-resistant transmission.
Smarter. Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's exciting.
They got some good propaganda out of that. And I think Jennifer Granholm was down in Goldsboro with your president to announce a bunch of stuff, including that one. So
yes, they were yesterday, I believe. Yes.
It's just weird newspapers that I look at and different things that I learn about stuff like that.
Hey, Scott, sorry, Jamie, I'm going to test real quick. Scott, did you make it on? I see you, but I know I had some microphone issues getting on with our new computers. Can you hear me? Yes.
All right, cool.
Obviously, it was just a me problem then.
I see 7 of I think there's 11 council members or 10 right now. So Seth, if you wanted to start, I think we have quorum. Do you need me to share my screen or anything?
We can't hear you, Seth.
How about now? Sweet. Jamie, thanks. I don't know, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing the agenda, but then all your faces are going to get much, much smaller. I think we all have access to it, but Michelle is juggling all the things and on her birthday, if I have things correct.
Looks like she's here.
So happy birthday to Michelle, but may have enough going on that she might be in and out of the call. So so I get to drive for today, I guess. And so with that, shall we start? Who would like to time keep today? Anyone who wants to keep us on task? Oh, Keith almost looked like you raised a hand.
Not on purpose.
See, this is the danger, though. That's how you get voluntold.
Yeah, but there are things I'm not good at.
I can do it.
I don't know that. All right. Thanks, Clary. Crack the whip on us. All right. We have some guests today. Scott, you want to take a moment to introduce yourself?
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Scott Burton. I am with Duke Energy. I am the program manager for our Neighborhood Energy Saver program. So I am the manager for all of NES for the Carolinas. So I have both the DEC side as well as the DEP side for both North Carolina and South Carolina. So pleasure being here with you all today. Look forward to the conversation.
Thanks for joining us. Is that it for guests? Everybody else looks quite familiar. Great. Starting with just housekeeping stuff, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from June? June seems so long ago.
Move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good deal. All right, so with that, Scott, would you like to give us a little tour of your program?
Sure. I'll jump right in. I know that there was a deck. I don't know if someone is going to share that or not.
Jamie, I think I sent that deck over yesterday afternoon, or I can share from my screen too.
Yeah, if you have it, I don't have it up right now. I'd love to help.
I say that, yeah, give me 30 seconds to make sure I am pulling the most up to date.
well,
And I
while you're
will.
while you're doing that, I can just kind of jump in and just kind of be respectful of everyone's time. Like I mentioned, I am the program manager for the NES program and wanted to just kind of give everyone one an update of kind of what the program is, what we do, for those that may not be familiar with it, and two, kind of give an update on where we are in Asheville as we have been working this program the last couple of weeks, and talk about some of the things that we have coming up. So, a high level overview of the program. NES is really designed for our low income or income qualified customers within within neighborhoods, and so we really look for opportunities to get in these neighborhoods and give as many free products that we can to our customers to help reduce their energy bill. In turn, of course, that helps Duke by reducing the energy that's used on the grid. So it's really a win-win for both Duke and the customer. So looks like Jennifer has the deck up. So I will just kind of walk through this real quickly. Like I mentioned, the program really looks to give out. We have it's two pieces basically. So as we identify neighborhoods to go in, we look to do two things. We look to do a free walkthrough energy assessment for the customer. In that, we're educating the customers on the things that they have in their homes, different ways that they can help save on their utility bills, and just kind of helping them understand the overall concept of energy efficiency. So we do go in, we give the customer a number of things. There's what we call 1.0 measures. It's about 16 different products. That's air filters, shower heads, weather stripping, LED light bulbs. It's a list of items that we go in, give the customer completely free, no cost. And then the customers that have a little bit higher energy use may qualify for additional items like smart thermostats, attic insulation, air sealing, and duct sealings. And that's what we call our 2.0 measures. So you can go to the next slide, Jennifer. So this really just kind of talks about how we select neighborhoods within the program. Of course, this is something we do not advertise on like the news or a lot of social media, things of that nature. And it's because every customer is not eligible for this program. That neighborhood has to consist of at least 50% of that neighborhood being below the 200% poverty level. We also take into account how much kWh can we reduce. So the map that you see on the right-hand side in the yellow is actually the area that we're actually servicing right now in the Asheville area. And I'll get into a little bit of kind of how we're doing with that. But this is available to residential customers, both homeowners and renters. And if you're eligible, if you're in that highlighted area, you're eligible for the program. So like I said, 50% of the neighborhood has to meet the income qualifications. But if you're within that parameter and you're not, part of that 200%, you still get to participate because you're in that parameter. We send out marketing material. So when we're coming to the neighborhood, we send out flyers, we send out postcards notifying that we're coming. And also we do a local event. And neighborhood events can look like many different things. I'll talk about what the plan is for Asheville here in a few. But leading up to that event and following the event, they just continue to get free information on how they can schedule and get their free energy assessment. On the next slide, it talks a little bit about the 2.0 eligibility. So I talked about those customers that are eligible for that. Again, this is both homeowners or renters. They receive a free assessment with the 1.0 measures. They have to have that portion done in order to qualify for the 2.0. So we've come in, we've laid the foundation, so to speak, with some of our energy saving products, and this is kind of that next level for them. So they're notified during their assessment if they qualify for this. And the way we determine that is we look at the kilowatt usage per hour compared to the square footage of the home. And we use a calculation, and if it's higher than a certain number, they qualify for these services. Again, these upgrades are completely free to the customer, so there's no charges at all. And then in that link below is just the link that takes the customer or anyone that's interested to our website that talks a little bit about the program. On the next slide, we talk a little bit about where we're at in Asheville. So we have done 390 installs. We've had 390 customers, and this was as of yesterday, that we have went in their home. We've done the assessment. They at least at a minimum got the 1.0 services, whether that was a shower head or LED light bulb or weather stripping around the window, whatever it was, we at least serviced that customer at least one measure to help them reduce their energy bill. We have 74 scheduled appointments that are already on the schedule, and our target to meet our goal of at least 65% of the customers in that highlighted area is 515. So we started this neighborhood first week of June. We're scheduled to be there through the end or mid September. So I say that our target is 515. If we hit that target and we're still scheduled to be there, we're going to go over and beyond that. Of course, if we can get 100%, that's great. But typically what we will try to do is get into a neighborhood, stay no longer than about 2 to 3 months, depending upon the size of the area. I believe that this area was maybe 1,200 or so customers. I'm just guessing off the top of my head. I can't remember. But we will spend the time in that neighborhood. And then once that time comes where it's time to wrap up, we won't come back to that neighborhood for probably about 7 years. So we encourage all the customers in that area to take advantage if they're part of that program or in that highlighted area. So we've done very well. As you all probably know the area, we do have folks that go out. They do door-to-door canvassing. We have an outreach team that speaks both English and Spanish, and so they're able to have the conversations with the customers, set up and schedule the appointments for us to go out and do the assessment and the installs. And then for those customers that qualify, we also go back and include those 2.0 measures that I mentioned. The next slide talks a little bit more about the timeline, and I hope that it didn't come over. Okay. It came over blank. Uh-oh. So I think I have a copy up on my side too.
I can share that part.
Okay.
I think Jamie's been sharing the other, but.
Okay.
Here, Jamie. Just switch.
So, all right, awesome. Let's see. Oops.
It's a team effort. Are we?
It looks good.
You can see it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, I can see it. Awesome. Appreciate that. All right. So what we're looking to do in Asheville is more so looking probably early September. We're looking to do a customer appreciation event. And what we're going to this event will be set up to do will be an event really like a pop-up event in which we'll be kind of set up. We'll have tables set up where customers can come by, learn about our program, and also sign up, get scheduled for the program. And then we'll also do a meal for the customers as well, so they can come in, get something to eat, and kind of share that with their families. The intent of it is to show those customers that have participated in the program that we appreciate them allowing us to come in the home, offer them this free product, and also encourage them to tell friends that we're in the area. And Duke's here, they're looking to help save us some money. Come out, fellowship a little bit with your neighbors, and also learn about this free program and get a meal while you're there as well. Typically what we do at these type of events, we will also invite my peer, Juanita Ward, who's over our weatherization organization, and she will invite out the local agencies as well. And so there's opportunities there for the customer to also kind of engage with their programs as well, to look for any opportunities. So we're planning to get that scheduled. I would encourage you all, if you're available, to please come out, join us. You're more than welcome to come out, learn more about the program if you want, see what our customers think about it. But this is really a time of engagement, and we're looking to just kind of invite our customers out to kind of learn more about the program. As I mentioned, our target is to be in the neighborhood through mid-September, September 20th to be exact. Excuse me. I've been battling a cold all week, so I apologize. But some of the things that we're doing right now is to work to kind of have that collaboration around what's the next area or neighborhood within the Asheville area that we want to try to identify. So we'll be working through that over the next couple of weeks to kind of understand, excuse me, what the next neighborhood or next area that we want to. Excuse me. This gets me choked up. But the next neighborhood that we'll want to really get in and promote the program. So a lot of conversations going on, working with Jennifer, and of course, working with the folks within the city and in the county to kind of understand maybe what some possibilities will look like. We'll look to do that neighborhood in either Q1 or Q2 of next year. Of course, we'll start planning for that prior to the neighborhood rolling out, getting marketing and things of that nature rolled out, and going through the kind of the same process that we went through for this current neighborhood as well. So I've said a lot in a little bit of time. So while I'm catching my breath, I'll pause for any questions, or Jennifer, anything you think that I may need to add or missed.
No, I thought you did a great job, Scott. You know what? I talked to Juanita earlier, and she sent me just a brief overview of the CAP work that we talked about. And so I was just going to mention that too, because it's the same, as I understand it, Scott, same contractors, or some of the same contractors who are doing the work for the neighborhood energy savers. We also have efforts around our customer assistance program. Scott, if I get any of this wrong, let me know. But essentially, those are referrals that come through Buncombe County for some weatherization and improvements. And so we have a pilot going on with our customer care operations team for some of that work in Buncombe County. I put that out there to say that I think part of the awareness that's really beneficial for this group to know that the NES efforts are going on in that specific area is in case there are questions that arise. I think our teams work really hard to build trust so that people know that this is a legitimate effort. We're knocking on doors, we're making contact to say, hey, let us help you. But we all know there's some skepticism out there when somebody knocks on your door and offers you a free service. So making the connection, though, that this same team might be in other areas of the county doing similar work, but through a different program. So if that question arises of, hey, a contractor who said they were working for Duke Energy came to my team, and I remember calling, and there was a referral, but is this legitimate? Knowing that there are multiple efforts kind of going on in Buncombe County at the same time with a similar contractor. And of course, you can put those people in contact with myself or Scott, or really anybody on the Duke team to help confirm and move that effort along.
All right, we got a few hands. I think Brad's hand, I think, went up first.
Jim, why don't you go first?
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Wonderful program. And I want to start with congratulations on picking a high target. And it looks like swinging the bat in a way where you're hitting it. 65% penetration is pretty amazing in my mind. And I was just wondering how you're dealing with the renters. Like, are you approaching landlords, or how's that work going?
So for our program, we do have an authorization form that is either signed by the landlord or the tenant, either basically getting the approval from the landlord. So we do have that when we go out and we schedule. So that's one of the questions. Are you the homeowner? Are you the tenant? And if they say that they're the tenant, we really rely on them to get the approval from the landlord. But we do have an authorization form for that gets signed.
Yeah. Are you done, Jim? Does that?
Actually, I'd like a follow-up later. I'd love to hear what kind of energy reductions you get from this at some later date after you've done a few neighborhoods and watched the data for a few years. I think it'd be really fascinating to understand what kind of kilowatt hour reductions you're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. As we get those studies, I'll be happy to share that back with Jennifer and make sure that it gets back to this team.
It would be, Scott, we have a program that Jamie runs that also utilizes Duke funding for people 200% of the poverty level through the Greenbelt Alliance. And, we have done some M&V. I mean, it's really very close because we're funded through the same bucket of money, very similar. We've got a tier 1, tier 2. We don't get into the insulation, but other than that, everything is pretty close in terms of what we do. And we estimate about 15 to 20% energy savings from our measurement and verification work, maybe 15%, which is really significant when you consider how many homes that you guys are able to do. I mean, it takes us in a year, we'll do maybe 200. Now we're limited to only 50, the family itself has to do income qualification, whereas your program has the benefit of, as long as they're in a neighborhood, they don't need income qualifications. You can just go in and start doing the work. And so you can be wealthy as far as that goes, and you're still doing the work as long as they're in that neighborhood.
Yes.
But you're getting a lot, and I like that approach better. I wish we could do that. Instead of having to qualify individual homes. We had neighborhood energy savers in 6 or 7 years ago, 8, 9 years ago, somewhere in there. It was a very similar thing. It was in the Deaverview community, which is really very close to where you're working now, but a little bit south of there.
Right.
Contrast, my recollection of that program was that you guys came back and said that it was the worst experience of any time in history of the neighborhood energy savers program because of, I don't know, Asheville or just bad luck, or I mean, did you guys get any of that negativity that was experienced that period of time? Have we gotten better somehow, or
so
just
I'm
different neighborhood?
I'm knocking on wood over here. That was before my time. I know that a lot of things have kind of changed. So I don't know exactly what caused that poor reception back then. That was one of the conversations Jennifer and I had when we first started talking about the neighborhood. And so some of the things that we've done now is we have a different implementer for one. We're using Franklin Energy. Prior to that, it was Honeywell, but Honeywell is not doing it in the Carolinas anymore currently. We have a really good team at Franklin Energy that will ensure that we have the right folks in the field having these conversations and um, building that trust. And we've put things in place to kind of help kind of get through that stuff. So it's a lot better reception than it was. I have heard that story, but we offer a little bit more as well. So one reason that we looked at this area that we're in is because it's kind of close to where we previously went, and because we didn't offer the 2-point measures back then, we do have the opportunity to kind of go back out to some of those customers and offer some of these other 2.0 measures. We have not done that yet because I was kind of like hesitant because of the past history of kind of say, okay, let's see what we get. Let's see how we feel. What's the feeling coming out? And so you may see some of that stuff starting to happen as well. But we do have folks, some bilingual folks on the team as well, so that helps close a lot of gaps as well. Again, I can't speak exactly to what the cause was then, but as far as the things now, where the reception seems to be good, we have a good team in the field that knows how to resonate with our customers and kind of build that trust. And then they get in, they do a good job at one customer, and really word of mouth is kind of one of the things that helps us get in the door for our next customer. So Brad, I'm knocking on wood. I'm hoping that it doesn't go back down that path. Right now, we're doing very well.
So hopefully we'll be able to come to your event.
Okay.
But I would just encourage you and reach out to Jamie, or you could ask me, but I'll pass it along to Jamie, that if any of your people are just not able to get scheduled, and you think they might be income qualified at 200%, that we'd be happy to take those customers and serve them through our program, which is here in the community,
Okay.
365 days a year, or
Okay.
52 weeks
Yeah.
a year.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds like a plan. And like I said, we're gonna be here until September. We'll also be here again early next year as well. So the overall NES program has a goal. I do 11,500 customers a year. That's my goal. And so we hit our goal last year. We actually did about 13 or 14,000 customers, which was impressive. It was good. So I want to get as much as we can in the Buncombe County, Asheville area, to be a part of that number for this year and next year. We'll continue to kind of explore these avenues, and I'm happy to share, customers with whatever if they don't fit our model. And there's some customers that do both. Just to be honest. And so
Well, a lot of
there's
people have a lot of people have relatives or whatever that would like a
Yeah.
similar kind of thing. And well, I'm sorry you're not going into their neighborhood this year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you should really send those our way.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Yeah. So we could work that up. As we get those, be happy to share those. I have no problem doing that at all. So
Well, I think it's really important and valuable for these type of programs that have kind of mixed stakeholders and folks that can benefit, right? Like there is no shortage of need in the energy
Right.
transition.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
apologize. I do want to stop us right here again with apologies. We've gone way beyond what we had time for. I appreciate the engagement, and Scott, thank you so much for joining us. We do need to move on down the agenda, but appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, it is time to start thinking about recruitment and setting up a nominating committee for new Blue Horizons project members. I know this is a role that is traditionally led by the vice chair, and I ain't scared. I am also grateful of the role that, in particular, that Jamie and Michelle took in my ability to join the council. So grateful to have an opportunity to help with that. Is there anyone else that would be interested in being part of a nominating committee? I know that we have a particular interest in getting some more representation on the council from kind of the commercial industrial kind of side of the house, if you will. And so anybody that would have interest or connections in engaging with members of that community in service would be particularly welcome. But I think we'll probably be pretty inclusive. So anybody who'd be interested in being part of a nominating committee, maybe either just, indicate so here, or maybe reach out to me directly following the meeting. But I think in the interest of time, we'll probably leave that agenda item there, unless anybody has any quick questions. Great. Look for more there. Come talk to me. Let's get some new folks on the committee.
Hey, sorry, it's Michelle jumping in. My HVAC guy is here, but doesn't need me right now. One thing we need to get is an inventory of who's up. So how many seats are available, and that's kind of a good first step in understanding how many people we need to recruit. I think getting some feelers out there in the community, no matter what, is great. Having a competitive nominations process is always wonderful. But we do need just a list of how many council members are rolling off, and we need to notify council members if they need to reapply. Because if it's your turn to roll off, like me, I'm rolling off. And if I want to continue on, I actually have to reapply for my seat. So that's just a good thing to do.
It's a 2-year term?
It's a 3-year term, I think. Yeah, 3. And like Keith just joined for his second of 3-year term last year, right? So Keith has 2 more years. This is something I think I remember, but there's a spreadsheet somewhere. So, and maybe Jamie could email that out and just notify members if they need to reapply. It's good to know who wants to reapply, so you also have a sense. And I think we have a vacancy right now, as I recall too.
Yeah. Maybe a couple.
I'm not sure.
All right. Good on nominating. Jamie, you want to talk about the contract update?
I pulled up the spreadsheet to look at the nomination forms, and it doesn't have dates in it. So I've got to do a little problem solving going backwards, but I'll send that out after this. Also, as far as like new members, I know Ian or Sarah at Land of Sky has talked about joining. So that's a prospect for that on that front. That's at the front of my mind. But without much further ado, I've got 5 slides for you. So I think it's going to be on time. So the city and the county signed a contract with us, and they signed a contract with Bright Spaces, who runs the Let's Go Electric platform. I actually don't have a direct report on what they're doing per se, but we work super closely. Like we had a meeting yesterday about this stuff, so I might be able to fill in some gaps. But I wanted to show you the deliverables for this year for us. It's 4 slides actually, because it's a title slide. And these are just the 4 buckets of where the money is going. I didn't put the breakdown of the cash, but it kind of give you an idea for the work. And then as the community council, one of your roles is giving feedback on this and the process through this body, the subcommittees. And in April, Greenbelt Alliance comes back and says, here's what we did so far, so that you can inform the process for the next fiscal year. So top of the list is, now that Energy Savers Network is mostly supported by Duke Energy Progress's low income program, which is a huge win and very exciting. I'm excited about it. The city and the county have opted to help us weatherize 10 homes that are in co-op territories, Haywood and French Broad. So they'll pay for the crew to go out and do our Energy Savers weatherization there. That's air sealing and lighting measures and water measures. Also, professional development for our apprentices, of which we have 4, and we're hoping that some of them stay. There's 3 that might. One's going back to college. She goes to Warren Wilson. But that is wrapping up next week. So the part of this contract is providing additional training and professional development for those folks and staff. In addition to this certification, there is a 4 half-day job shadow or development activity. So as far as like your other lives outside of the council, you might consider having one of them come and job shadow someone at your place of business. That could be a cool way to participate. The second piece, the second bucket of the 4 is electrification navigation program. This is like coaching for electrification for low-income households. It's one-on-one guidance. It's walking folks through the process. And what we're trying to do here is the Energy Savers Network primes people to be excited about energy, shows that we're not taking advantage of them, and hopefully can flow into other electrification opportunities at Duke Energy, but also with the rebates hopefully coming together at the beginning of 2025. Yeah, I can go more into that, but I'm gonna leave that there unless there's questions at the end. So the community engagement plan this year dials in heavily to the community engagement subcommittee's plan, the way that they wrote it. And it is focused around 4 campaigns. So there's going to be community presentations that we're going to get help with volunteers to do, but then they're going to follow 3 or 4 specific campaigns. The 3 we've outlined with Let's Go Electric, it's Sophie and her crew, is doing a net zero ready home tour. That's for like full electrification, getting ready for the heat pumps. So like kind of like, hey, it's heating season, and then promoting the electric fair. The 4th one, we talked about doing some sort of equity work, but I don't think I have anything fully cooked for you today. But those were the 3 campaigns that has come out of our coordination with Let's Go Electric. And then with these campaigns, there are actually specific deliverables about flyers and testimonials and press releases. So I might be hitting you up for some of that stuff as far as like, hey, I might need help with testimonial, or hey, it would be, here's kind of how the educational flyer is going. Is this in line with what the community council is looking to do? But it's heavily focused on residential electrification. And then last but not least, there's more money this year than last year in the equity task force. We had 3 or 4 meetings last year, and a couple of activists have kind of risen to the top. So I'd like to subcontract with them to do more in-depth work with this council, but then also possibly get them to help us go back out into the community and do some listening. So this was directly out of the equity task force last year. So this, I haven't really started on this yet, but this is another pot in the contract. I think that's the last slide. Yeah, that's the last slide. So that's the contract outline for this year. I guess that's all I've got. I'm gonna stop there. Take questions if you all have any. Hearing none.
Well,
I see.
Jamie, I'm not sure I understand. There's funding behind each of these from the county or the county and city, or how does that work out?
We signed a scope with the city and the county, and it includes each of these. Total contract amount is around $85,000, I want to say. And each of these buckets have a different amount depending on how much they assign. So like this first one is 11,000. And then the majority of the contract is slides 2, and this slide, electrification navigation and community engagement implementation.
So
that's where most of the resources are.
The electrification navigation is to have a person go and navigate some people through the programs and to develop a curriculum for navigating people through the programs.
It's more doing it, but we can write like an SOP that can be part of what we do. Yeah.
And okay, so has that started?
No. Well, I mean, we've talked about it with Let's Go Electric because they are more market rate focused, and dialing in for lower income, it doesn't work quite the same. Like because there'll be different rebates and programs that are available to 100%, 150% or less AMI. So it's like, how does that work if it's 100% rebate? How much handholding do folks need? So it's kind of like being a navigator through that.
It might make sense to wait a little bit until we see a little bit more from the state about what the IRA programs are going to look like, which might help inform how we would engage.
Right. Agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, with apologies, but with no crucial questions, I'd love for us to try to get close to back on top. We actually have a stacked agenda for today.
I just have a quick question. I don't see facilitation for BHP CC in this list.
It's in there. It's about $10,000. So there is resources here for this focus and effort right here.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, I could have put that in there, but it's very boring. That slide. It's not any of this exciting program stuff. It's like
just want to make sure we didn't get
have meetings.
It keeps the lights on.
You're in there. Yes.
Well, hey, so we've got Michelle, Ed, and Brad slated next to talk about the NREL grant application. Who wants to kick that off? Looks like we've got about 10 total minutes for that.
Nothing new to report from my perspective, unless somebody else does.
I haven't heard anything from Sarah or Ian.
Yeah, I don't have any news either. I don't know if Michelle does.
No, I
But
think Jamie was.
we still got
Jamie was
fingers
the-
crossed.
Jamie was the last one to reach out. I don't think we've had a meeting since we actually submitted, so I just want to make sure everyone closed the loop on what happened a little bit. So we wrote a wonderful concept draft, and then Land of Sky really took it and turned it into something that was in the format that NREL needed, and they are named as the prime awardee, and then Greenbelt Alliance is a sub awardee for certain deliverable tasks. I think that this grant, if awarded, is based on some initial scoping period. And then after that scoping period, they kind of think about what the proposal said and if it's possible. And then a secondary period where they would award and agree to the scope of work that we wrote for NREL to do. Just as a reminder, I think there was it 500,000 in community outreach and engagement funds that would be shared between Land of Sky and some to GBA. And then I think a 3.5 million.
Yep.
Yeah, in an actual technical assistance work. So they really need to understand what we've written and kind of square what our concept is of what we think they can do and what they will actually do. So last we heard from Sarah at Land of Sky, we were supposed to find out if we were invited to the second round of review. And they didn't say that we weren't, but they also didn't let us know that we had moved forward. So we have not gotten a rejection, and the deadline for notifying people has passed, but we have not also been notified that we moved forward.
So I talked to Ian last week about it, and he said that they hadn't heard anything as of last Wednesday.
Yeah.
Hopefully no news is good news.
And then is this the part of the agenda where we're going to talk about the relationships with the Chamber of Commerce, or is that in a different item?
All right.
Okay, so we got a letter of support from the Chamber of Commerce, which is really wonderful. And they've been running some sort of green business sustainability program that we have not been involved in, to my knowledge. I mean, maybe GBA has been involved loosely, but certainly the Blue Horizons project has not been. So I'd like to take that initial touch with them and see if we can start being more collaborative with or without this grant funding. It seems like a good opportunity, and maybe even lead way to some sort of cross-pollination in the way of a nomination, if not this year, then at least start developing that relationship. So I wanted to see if anyone has any connections at the chamber. I know Maggie did, and she's the one that got us a letter of support from them. But if anybody else was very interested in participating or wanted to leverage those relationships that they may have from other community work or business outreach work that you've done. Clary, Sugar Hollow's been.
Yeah, we're a member and attend events and participate in different ways. So could definitely help facilitate conversations.
Be great. Cool. So I'll follow up with you offline and we can decide. I'd love to hear if you have any experience with their sustainability programming, because again, I'm not a member, so I just never been invited to anything like that. So I just don't know what their current offerings are.
Michelle, we're somewhat involved. We're members of the chamber and sponsor a fair amount as well. So somewhat familiar with their sustainability programs and support of those programs if you want to connect at some point. And Claire, I know you absolutely take point. If you need help with introductions, let me know.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Let's get coffee sometime soon.
Happy to.
Back to Scott.
Keith, you want to talk about Appalachian offsets?
Well, we just in the Innovation Task Club task force meeting, we had a long discussion about Appalachian offset, and we found out that people who are looking to offset are not looking at Appalachian Offset. They're looking at other programs that are outside of our community. And we thought that that was a kind of a loss for us here in our community because we don't have those local programs. So we just wanted to kind of figure out where it's at and then also elevate the Appalachian Offset for those people who want to buy offsets and make sure they do it locally. And that's, yeah. And so I just wanted to have a conversation about that, seeing if we can do that, whether it's something we need to integrate into the community outreach committee or some way to elevate that program. And if anybody's not aware of Appalachian Offset, maybe just get a 3-sentence overview from if people would like that.
For me,
Sure.
Appalachian Offsets is where people give money because they feel guilty, and then we put it towards something cool. And sometimes the cool things are cool enough that we get an award. Thanks, Ashley. But it's it's offsets, and then Isaac Dixon Middle School, United Way, then a church in the Burton community have received solar panels through the Appalachian Offset program. Often it's just to augment what other fundraising they're already doing. So it's kind of cool. Kind of like tops them up so they can finish the project. We
And
talked in the group to like apply them to low income houses who are getting HVAC where they get the money from Duke Energy. So it could like top that up. That could be an angle we could go, but maybe it's something for a committee.
yeah, one of the things with that we're finding out about the like this home energy rebates program or the Duke funding for heat pumps for low income is that you stack the benefits that are out there, and still there's a gap. So a very powerful way, maybe we get $6,500 from Duke. Maybe the home energy rebates is going to kick in for, 8,000. Next year, that's 14,500. And yet, when you put it out for bid, the cheapest bid is 18,000. So there's just, and the people have no money to spend to any of their own. I mean, maybe they could borrow it. Maybe that's part of the equation. But another part of the equation could be having a grant program like Appalachian Offsets, where people have said, I want to contribute to charitable causes in my community, and I also want to help the planet. And this is a great way to do both. Another aspect of Appalachian Offsets, besides just say supporting the energy savers work, would be supporting a nonprofit or two that we would pick to partner with, and they would say, hey, yeah, we want to do solar. We can raise a certain amount of money among our normal donors, but we could expand the pool of those donors in conjunct and do a joint campaign through Appalachian Offsets. And that's what we did with Isaac Dixon School. I think the United Way maybe is another example of that. And so it's just a program, we're talking about accentuating that and making sure it keeps going, gets new energy, et cetera.
I love the potential of this program. I think like this would be a great one to scale. And the conversation that Jamie was referencing about low income housing, right? Like if you're a beloved or a habitat, right? You have this, you have this balance to think about, right? Like solar systems are still expensive, right? And you could either provide this level of energy security to a family who's going to live in that home for a long time. But I think something like 3 to 4 to maybe 5 solar systems on homes represent the expense associated with building another home and housing another family. And if we could help an organization like those not have to make that difficult decision, use the offsets, which I think aren't just guilt, right? I think offsets can be a very legitimate kind of gap filler in people's decarbonization planning. To be able to put solar panels and still give the organization the opportunity to house another family I think that's an amazing story. It furthers our goals, and it should be a great way to promote that solution. So, +1 from this guy.
All right, if we're going to talk Appalachian offsets, I can't keep my mouth shut. Personally, as a member of the community council, I am not in favor of pushing offsets. I think they really take people's guilt away. If you offset, you can buy clean natural gas by putting a couple bucks in, and you're still emitting the CO2. We need to electrify our electric grid in North Carolina. We have a law saying that it has to get lower and lower emissions. So personally, I think a focus on putting residential solar on. We need to be putting more things on the grid, and dealing with the most efficient way to get solar onto the grid is probably larger scale projects from a kilowatt hour per dollar spent communally. And I just don't get behind people saying I spent some money on my offset so my emissions are okay, and some project happened in my community that was wonderful, and like all thumbs up to the projects that happened. But I think the push to decarbonize Buncombe, Asheville is to get people onto the grid and make sure that we comply with the laws that are now in place in the state of North Carolina. Just a personal opinion. Happy to discuss that with a beer with anybody, including Brad, who I think we've had this conversation before.
Yeah. And I just want to say, Jamie, let's reframe it. And let's say that people are interested in making acts of love to their community instead of assuaging their guilt. I think the framing of it as an act of love might be more positive, and not frame it as an offset, because an offset is pretty much, hey, I'm going to pollute my carbon, but I want to offset it. No, well, I think we just want people to reduce carbon however they can, and sometimes this is a good way to do it. But I think Jim's point is well taken, that the cost efficiency of the program, we should take that into account in terms of what is our cost, even in the program, for reducing a certain amount of carbon. So, putting 4 kilowatts of solar on a low-income person's house may not be nearly as cost efficient as providing that last $2,000 that they need to get a heat pump, or taking a large nonprofit with a lot of roof space or warehouse space somewhere and converting that to solar. That could be done pretty cost effectively into commercial solar world. So I think, yeah, we just need to be efficient with what we do.
Noted. Should we move to the next one?
Well, just okay.
I think worthy
Yeah.
of more conversation, we would maybe all agree on.
There is something else that I just want to add, that I do have something that I want to bring up for another thing for the Innovation Committee, and I can talk about it now, or we can add it into the subcommittee reports. It's really the starting of a conversation. So I don't know if you want me to talk about it now or talk about it later.
Can we put it in the innovation readout?
Yeah, it's just not on the agenda.
Oh, we don't. Oh, you're right. We have community engagement. We don't have. All right, slide it in. Oh, sweet. Well done, Jamie. We agenda on the fly.
I got you.
All right, Jamie, is this next one yours? The homes in here.
Brad, do you want to talk about the letter or no?
Well,
I
I mean,
said-
some of us attended the public hearing, and then we commented on the home energy rebates program design, which from the presentation, and there was a presentation. North Carolina is one of the states that is trying to get to the finish line so that this money can be allocated. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's before a possible change of administration or whatever, but maybe just to get it done, because it's a 9-year program. There's $200 million in it. There are 2 paths in the program. Well, first of all, for who is the beneficiary of the program is people who are at 80% of AMI or below area medium income is a full participant. And then you get 100% up to a certain maximum. And then for people who are up to 150% of area medium income, it's a program to get 50% credit against certain things. And it looks like nonprofits are going to be able to participate. Community action agencies are going to be able to participate. Well, it didn't say nonprofits, it said community-based organizations, which I would guess GBA would qualify as that as one possibility. And then private companies, contractors are going to have to go, may be able to qualify. I don't think people are going to be able to go to Home Depot and get a free Mr. Cool do-it-yourself mini split heat pump, even though that would be a really good way to have it work, because then it would be free and those things should be flying out the door. But installers are not going to qualified installers solutions are way more expensive than the do-it-yourself solutions, and that actually came up in the hearings. So we submitted some comments, and I don't know, I don't have a copy of them, but I don't even know if we submitted them to the committee, but I don't know, do we want to send it around to everybody to see what comments we made?
I linked
Otherwise,
it
we're just
in
going
the
to wait to see
agenda.
what kind of program they come out with.
I linked the letter in the agenda.
Yep. Great. Thanks, Brad. Clary, I think you are of Clary, Micah, and Jennifer. Would you like to start it off on PowerPair?
Yeah, this can be super quick. I think the important update to give here is there was that initial 1-month window, which then closed. It was a lottery process within that, and now we're into a first come, first serve process with PowerPair. So this is that program where it's up to $9,000 for new PV and battery systems for Duke customers. And the cool, cool, not cool, it can be seen lots of ways, but we want this program to be amazing. And the more success we see, the more we understand Duke will want to keep funding it. There's a ton of space left at this point. So so far across the state, I think maybe 20% has been used up, something not very large. So we foresee this program continuing for a good chunk of time. Jennifer, do you have more you want to share?
Nope, I think that covers it well. I think the last update that I got, which was late July, was that there was a little more than 1,300 customers who had adopted across the service territory, Clary, if that's what you've heard.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to be going well. And I know, Jamie, you've had some questions come in about it. I know I have. Claire, I'm sure you have. So I think we're seeing adoption. I think that, like you said, that there's room. It seemed like there was that kind of panic moment at the beginning of like, we've got to get in from a that was probably residual from the solar program, but lots of space. So tell people to come on.
Does anyone have any specific questions? We certainly, I
The
know we've
best
been learning a lot through the process.
The best place to direct people is to Duke's PowerPair webpage, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. And they have to be working with a contractor in order to apply. The type of information they need is not something a person would have.
There's a question in the chat from Jerry. Why do you think there is a slow amount of applications for PowerPair?
I don't know that it actually would be considered slow. I think it was more that we were curious, with so much money on the table, how fast this would go. But last year, so 2023, the number I have in my head is it was less than 900 permits pulled for people doing solar plus battery systems in the entire state. So the fact that this program has already had 1,300 is great. This is not slow. It was just, there was worry that it would run out. And so, yeah, on the installer side, it was like, how do we sell this and offer this, but not overpromise, right?
Claire, how are you guys doing with it? I mean, you're seeing much uptake here in Buncombe for it?
Yeah, a lot. We did quick math and we think that of all the power pair submissions across the state, we might have been like 8 or 10% of them, just Sugar Hollow. So yeah, it's a really valuable program. It's really good.
Good job, Clary. That's
Good
great
job.
news.
And it's really increased how many people are adding batteries is what we see. It's a similar number of people who are still moving forward with solar, but it pushed a lot of people to add the battery as well.
I'm waiting for them to do it for people who already have solar.
Yeah, Jennifer, I kind of want to like put a message, in Duke's ears about if they want the program to be taken up faster. There's a lot of people asking who have pre-existing solar systems and would love to add battery or even do an additional solar at their home and then add battery if that could possibly be eligible.
Duly noted. I will pass it along. I think it's likely a message that's being received across the territory. So, but I will echo and reiterate.
And also have one for commercial and industrial.
Oh, and if we're putting on messaging and like push the European model of being able to plug our car in, our biggest battery that's much larger than the unit on your wall.
Yeah.
You guys are going to have to make a list at some point. I can't remember it all. I'm just kidding.
Man, send me a
noted.
check. Put that in there. I mean, if we're just adding on there, get me on the list.
Brad, I have heard rumors there is something along these lines in the works for commercial.
I think it was part of the PUC staff filing in the carbon plan that they really wanted that. So that's pretty powerful when PUC staff says something that's next to Duke saying it.
All right.
Cool, thanks.
Yay, power pair. And Keith, we're back. Innovation Committee.
So during the Innovation Committee, we had a discussion about how we can help the city and county potentially get people coming in with businesses when they're going through the permitting process, or actually pre-permitting process. A lot of times they'll go into review, especially when they have to go to the level of review where they end up at city council, and they always get these questions at the city council level about what they're doing to make sure their project is as green as possible, how much solar and insulation, energy efficiency, and all this stuff. And the comment was that they always seem a little surprised when they get to that point, even though everybody knows that the city council members are going to ask these questions. And so we're discussing this, and we were thinking that potentially the Blue Horizons project could send a letter to the city and county recommending that they have a voluntary or maybe a mandatory voluntary questionnaire that they have to fill out, something that integrates all of this energy efficiency things that you can do on a new project at the plan review stage, because they have a mandatory meeting with the city and county for these larger projects at a design review phase, but they don't really have an opportunity to discuss the energy efficiency. So they get to these final stages where they're getting approval or not approval from, let's say, city council, depending on the size of the project. And we just wanted to have a conversation, because we had it at the innovations meeting, about whether or not Blue Horizons project should encourage the city or county to add something at that design, the plan review stage. And well, Brad, did I cover that well, that discussion well, Brad? Because they're not going to do it unless somebody asks them to do it. That's,
I mean, basically, yeah, what we heard is that, from Clay Mitchell, who's in our committee, and he basically says he'll whisper to these people kind of informally, well, you know, Kim Roney is likely to ask such and such a question at this hearing. So you might want to think about getting some renewable energy onto your project. It's gonna be better for you. And that's about all the leverage that they have, is just to have and you know, so it'd be nice to have something more than that. You know, because he's, you know, one member of the planning committee or the planning department that is extremely interested in this subject. So we kind of, and then Kim is always outspoken about this, it sounds like.
So we're kind of thinking it's just something that would help the city, county planning departments add something that gives us a nudge towards our goals. And I don't know if we have much time for this conversation now, but I just wanted to put that seed in everybody's mind to think about, and think about whether or not we want to do this as a council, whether or not, and how it would look. And yeah,
I guess one thing I hear a lot is, you know, we can't, of course, require anything like that, but if we're just putting it out there as a voluntary tool to try to promote people to include it, are there other areas in the state that are doing anything like that, or other examples, or?
not that we know about, but I guess I wanted to have a discussion in the council before we start spending innovation committee meetings time towards figuring out those answers, because I do think we should actually formally request it from the committee at some point, the community council at some point. I did some looking, not very much, to see if there were tools out there. Like, there are tons of tools oriented towards homeowners to look at the energy innovation things and the efficiency things, and you know, they can give them savings balances, and I didn't see anything like that for commercial at all. And it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, it just means that I have bad Google karma and I didn't find it.
Well, it does sound like there's a need for something like that. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to just have a way of informing people that we have these goals and that we look kindly upon people who help us move towards our goals.
I like the idea. I might have been asked this question too, of benchmarking. Like, I can't believe no communities, green communities across the state or the country have similar questions that they, like, there'd be examples that we could use from other communities.
Right.
That we could at least benchmark and look at language and see what might fit into this legal structure in North Carolina, where there isn't an overstepping of boundaries.
Well, and one thing that was really clear in our conversation is it does have to say it needs to fit in that free meeting, you know, when they first bring it up in that free planning meeting, because by the time they get to permit review and project approval, usually the plans are so well developed at that point, it becomes really difficult to do. So we wanted to get early in the process. But yeah, doing I've written down that we really need to do a review of other municipalities that are doing something similar. Yeah.
I mean, it might, I mean, I wonder if the Economic Development Department, you know, or activity in Buncombe should, you know, somehow reaching out to them, or what role do they play? I mean, I don't know.
In my mind, part of me thinks that people are coming to Asheville because they want these buildings to be part of the Asheville community. And since the city and county both have these climate goals, that it should be something that a business is willing to do because they're choosing to build in Asheville. And while there's lots of money to be built in Asheville, there's also that kind of commitment to Asheville or Buncombe County. So I would think it'd be more likely for it to happen here than other places, but that's just could be my hopeful
I'd just
mind.
argue the flip side of that. Somebody building in North Carolina might think they're protected by the laws of North Carolina that restrict Asheville from putting other claims on them. So a business might say, yeah, I'm intentionally building in the state of North Carolina. I wouldn't,
Right. I'm
moralizing about a moral thought that a business has. It's all people making decisions and. Yeah.
Right. And there's a reason Berkshire Hathaway is here and not at the coast.
Well, if you review the plan review documents, I know I look at the ones for the county that get submitted, and there's this huge checklist of all these different things. You have to either say yes or not applicable. Is it on a steep slope? Is it, there's all these, there's this huge laundry list of things on the form. Maybe if there was a way to put something on the form so that people have to consider it when they're going to the plan review meeting.
Yeah. I'll do.
Nice, please.
Well, Rick, you're unmuted. Did you want to chime in?
You did, but I don't know how. Sorry, Jamie.
Oh, that's okay.
I can't figure out how. I can't figure out how. It's in safe driving mode. Oh, God. That's weird.
Carol, I can mute it.
So I guess
call it *6 to unmute it. Sorry, go ahead.
So I guess from the innovations committee, this is something we should look more into and see what it would look like and come back to you all. But Dave, it's worthwhile for us to spend time looking at this. Yes, no, maybe.
Sorry about that. Couldn't figure out how to talk. No, I don't have anything to add.
So I think you asked the question of us, Keith. It does seem like there's more that we could look into here. That it seems like a neat idea that if somebody's got the fire behind it, seems like something that could carry forward and potentially be appropriate for the BHPCC to take some action on once there's more information gathered in my book.
Agreed.
Cool.
All right, Jim, you want to take us home with community engagement?
Yep, and Ed, by all means, jump in here. I don't know if you want to.
I'll chime in if I have something to add.
Okay, so I love the big, hairy, audacious goal of 60 talks. It doesn't even sound like that much. It's only 5 a month. Right now, we've been. I look at my time on the committee and think I have not been as effective as I wanted to be, and that I don't feel like we've turned the corner and started making presentations at any kind of pace. We do have some scheduled in September and late August. We got a Swannanoa Friends and Neighbors. We're talking to the board, but not to the community. So about 12 people with the option of having them help us put on an event for the neighborhood. Thanks, Jamie. We've got an event set up for Biltmore Park residents, owners in their community center in September. We've got and some events at Skyland United Methodist Church, just because that's where I attend. We are right now not at a shortage of speakers, but at a shortage of places, neighborhoods to speak into. So the limiting factor right now is in finding people in a community that are willing to say, I will help organize this thing if you come in and speak. I will be the community person that knows how to rent the community center, get a notice in our information letter, spread the word among our neighbors. That's the position that we're missing on the neighborhood model. And got to figure out how to crack that nut. So we are moving forward. I do like the idea of saying, hey, we like 5 of these talks a month does not seem actually to me that even big, hairy, and audacious. It just seems like a decent pace that we should be able to maintain, which would be 60 talks in a year. So I am, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. The place we're missing right now is neighborhoods to speak in on the neighborhood model, or churches to speak at, not the ability to speak. Ed, what do you want to throw on the back of that? I missed our last call.
Yeah, so what I would add to that is I think maybe in our thinking before we have a list of 94 neighborhoods with like 7 neighborhood champions signed up, and I think we were kind of considering that, oh, well, the neighborhood champion, they're the ones that'll do the presentation. And so in the last meeting, we really talked about trying to shift that dynamic. So we're just finding someone in the neighborhood who could make the connections to set it up at the community center or, you know, wherever, so that someone who's trained could come in. And one of the things I asked folks on the committee to do, and it would be great if all of you could look at it as well. If you get in our folder, there's I forget exactly what it's called, neighborhood champion list or something. And if there are neighborhoods where you know someone, if you can help us just make connections, not that they would somehow take this and run, but that they would help us identify a place and a time. And Jim is working on some slides and folders that could be used, and we hope to have a few people trained that they could go out. I think part of that too is, even if you know a lot about it, sometimes it feels weird to go into your own neighborhood where, you know, people will say, well, this sounds really great, what have you done? And you're not too far along the path, or you know, there's personal conflict, so it might be easier to do that. The other thing we talked about a little bit, and Jim, maybe you're going to touch on this, is after Micah spent an incredible amount of time with the Asheville Brewing Company and really did some great work and came up with a case study. It seemed obvious that her time, which was unpaid, which was an incredible amount, it didn't seem realistic to continue trying to focus on businesses in that way. So we're not saying we're not going to do that, but putting that on hold a little bit and rethinking how to approach that. And part of that may be getting funding from like the NREL grant, where we actually can have someone that is paid and has the time to commit to those things. Not that we wouldn't support it, but it seemed unrealistic to invest that kind of time. So we didn't really get quite to where that would be, other than saying, let's focus on the neighborhood individual contacts now, and then come back later to what we might be able to do on a larger scale with business. So that's what I got.
And the other thing I'd add, I liked Seth's comment earlier with the right now we're really working with tax incentives, which work in neighborhoods where you expect people to have a tax bill that they can offset. It's not the same. We right now, and I'll just say I'm not really focused on the lower income end of the scale until there are incentives that may be available next year in the state of North Carolina, but aren't structured right now. And so when those incentives that the state puts out, when we get more detail on what that looks like, we may want to revisit how we approach that end of the market.
Good. Was there a lot of overlap between, you know, there was a lot about community outreach and the neighborhood captains in that section, but did we sufficiently touch on Electrify ABC's neighborhood captain outreach? Or was there more there for us to?
They are one and the same. So
Got it.
we're talking to Sophie and team, and yeah.
Yeah.
Not
And
having,
they're-
not
And they
having,
were,
yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so they've held some meetings that we've attended, and like they're invited on they attend our community council subcommittee meetings. and
Yeah,
are
they
one
were
of
on the
same.
last call.
Thanks, guys. I really like this idea of we be the spokespersons and, you know, having a community contact that's helping us to get into the right spaces. If we have someone who we think might be a good organizer person, or I don't know if they are necessarily in their neighborhood, but there's someone who's offered to kind of help coordinate an event or something like that, who should we put them in touch with?
You could link them up with me.
Okay.
I'll even say just yeah, I don't mean to pick on you, Jamie, but I think our interactions on Swannanoa are giving me even a shift in model that relate back to an earlier email from Michelle of getting some of these people we're getting them to take a step onto the ladder that some of them might say, I will actually coordinate an event. I'm going to go out and get the space. I'm going to do this, where others might just say, I'm the person, and we might even have to walk alongside them. They may not have time to say, I'm going to go out and actually coordinate this event. They may just be the person that we keep touching back to and saying, okay, let's, what's the next step? What can we do to support you figuring out where you could hold an event, figuring out what the different groups are you need to touch base with, where we're using their name and some of their time, but not necessarily their management to make the event happen, where we just come in and talk. I'm even backing up to think that we may need to in-house more of that as we get people taking a lower step onto the ladder of involvement before we're assuming that they're on the third step coordinating an event.
Jim, just an idea, maybe in addition to like presentations, we could create like templates for like the Nextdoor app or something, or just posts that people could share for even a lighter touch.
Yeah, and I think that's a little bit of what we're thinking about as a range of options, and maybe if someone's willing to go to try and set up an event but doesn't know where to start or something like that, that we actually kind of have a package of things that we can offer them and support to go along with that. And part of that may be just sharing information in a more broad way instead of a meeting.
All right, y'all. What didn't we cover? Y'all did good.
Do we get a treat for getting to the agenda?
4 minutes.
We had an intention of getting together in person periodically. I think it's nice for people to have real human touch, real connection. The last time we tried to do a hybrid meeting, it didn't work out so well. I wonder what everyone's feeling about either doing the next meeting in person, doing the next meeting hybrid, or just doing like a happy hour and keep the meetings during the business day online. Who votes for happy hour?
Happy hours are great.
Never had a problem with happening.
And who votes?
Hybrid meeting with a happy hour following.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can do both, like do the meeting at the Collider and then take a short walk.
Jamie, how did that work out for you before? It seemed a little tricky because the audio in the room versus the audio on the screen. And
I have a microphone. It's around here somewhere. That helps a little.
well, what would you prefer? Because it's you that has to set up the room and make it work.
But I love being in person. If y'all came over, that'd be great. Highly recommend.
Yeah,
Is
I
it
think
just an in-person meeting or is it a hybrid meeting?
I'd say do it hybrid, right? And then encourage everybody to come. But then for the people who can't, they can dial in. And it's not as good an experience as being in person, but then they can at least listen.
Yeah, the technology's available. Like definitely try and make it, but I also recognize that might not work for everybody. So I like the idea of hybrid option too.
The idea is good. It was the application that was, remember we were there and people were like, we can't see, we can't hear. Got a little cranky.
it wasn't too
They
terrible.
can solve that problem by actually coming to the meeting,
Right?
not being virtual.
I was hybrid at that one, and there were some challenges, but I was able to hear a lot, so it was better than not being there at all.
And I wonder if it's something that we could just, like 2 or 3 people, just practice it a couple of times before the actual meeting, even just go in the next room or something. And so I think if we could work the bugs out, it would be great. I'm on the Sierra Club Executive Leadership Committee. We meet, so actually it's 30 minutes after this is over. And every month it's in person and hybrid. And it just makes it nice because there's that personal element. But if you're out of town or the kids are sick or whatever, then every month, oh, I can jump in. And because it's a regular thing, they got the tech worked out pretty well.
Our Rotary Club, the Rotary Club of Asheville, is hybrid and in person every meeting.
All right. Well, I
Every
think
week.
then it's September 4th is the next meeting, and you want to make that a hybrid meeting, and then we'll pick a place downtown to meet up afterwards.
Second.
Hey, this is Rick. Sorry, that mic was open. We got having to get in and out of vehicles. Hybrid really helps for people like us trying to join that don't really have the schedule. If we can at least listen, I mean, if we could just, Jamie, if you could just at least have the microphone, the conference microphone, that really does work pretty well. So thanks.
And maybe I was going to say if we had snacks, maybe people would be more likely to come, but then that just creates a whole nother level of stuff
Okay,
to do.
I booked the room. I changed the calendar invite, and I will get some snacks.
Jamie, how about I will get some snacks and you work out the tech in advance, because that is something that I cannot do remotely.
Okay, I'll troubleshoot it with someone. We'll sort it out.
That's
I'm gonna show up a little bit early too. See if we can.
You
Be-
have
be-
for snack contribution, for fun, for snack contributions or something.
BTW, I'm going back to our committee report, Jim put the neighborhood list in the chat. If you want to just pull that up without having to swim through the website to find it, click on that before you say toodaloo or whatever you like to say.
That's it, y'all. Toodaloo.
Thank you for your
Thanks,
time.
everyone.
Later, skaters.
Toodaloo.